we're good to start.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our March Housing Commission meeting. First, start off with any public comments on items not on the agenda.
So there are none today, unless we have someone in the room. The public comment.
Move on to approval of the notes, which you all have. Move to open discussion on the meeting minutes from our February meeting.
So I do have one edit, removing Katie's name in the agenda.
On here, any additional comments or edits for?
Move to approve them.
All right, seeing none, move to approve. No, a second.
Second.
All right. Raise or call. So all in favor of moving forward? Aye. Any opposed? Yes. So we will see this from our February meeting. Next, we have update from Barcroft and financing plan amendment.
Yes, so tonight online we have Melissa Danowski, staff, and I'll turn it over to her first.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Melissa Danowski. I'm with the Housing Division, and we also have with us, I believe, Kate Owens with the Jerry Lynch Real Estate Partners. We've prepared some presentations, and Kate, I think if you could present first, and then I will follow up and then turn it back over to the chair for any questions, if that works.
Yes, can you give me 1 minute? I'm having technological problems, so I just need to get myself set. I need to reboot my computer so I can share screen. So just 1 minute, if that's okay. Sorry. You guys moved through the minutes so fast. I'm sorry. I was trying to reboot. Give me 1 second.
You know, I can also begin with my presentation if that would work for everyone.
Yep, works for us.
Works for us.
Okay, so just 1 moment as I share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, good evening. I'm Melissa Danowski with the Housing Division, and I'm the General Barcroft Project Coordinator for the county. I would like to take a little time to share some background information on the acquisition of the property by Jerry Lynch. In the fall of 2021, Arlington County learned that Barcroft Apartments was for sale. At the time, the Barcroft property was the largest market rate affordable or MARC apartment community in Arlington. So first and foremost, the sale risks displacement of current residents if purchased by developer interested only in by right market rate development. Since this was a MARC community, there were no affordability protections for the residents. The sale process was highly competitive, and the sale listing received a lot of interest. Fortunately, instead of being purchased by developer interested only in market rate development, Arlington County was able to provide a $150 million loan, and the Amazon Housing Equity Fund provided a $160 million loan to assist with the acquisition of Barcroft Apartments by Jerry Lynch Real Estate Partners. So as a result of the acquisition, all 1335 units were committed to 99 years of affordability, up to 60% AMI. And so a lot has happened since December 21. So this is a timeline of major milestones to date. As previously discussed, Jerry Lynch acquired the property in December 21. In December 2023, a financing plan was approved, which represented the first of two components of Jerry Lynch's master financing and development plan. The financing plan outlines how the county acquisition fund loan will be reallocated to create separate county loans by phase as each phase is renovated and redeveloped. It also commits Jerry Lynch to rent stabilization for current residents, as well as the provision of at least 134 units, up to 30% of AMI across the property. And then in July 24, the entire master financing and development plan was approved, what we call the MFDP. So the MFDP includes the financing plan plus the site renovation and redevelopment plan and vision. The first renovation phases began construction in November 24, And in July 2025, there were zoning amendments passed and a phase development use permit that was approved. And this phase development use permit essentially helps enable monitoring and tracking of key commitments that were identified in the MFDP. And then the second renovation phase began construction in September 2025. And lastly, the third and fourth renovation phases are anticipated to begin construction later this spring. So specifically, why we're here tonight, the original financing plan approved in 2023 included commitments that all residents living at the property at the time of an approved tenant relocation plan, regardless of income, receive annual rent increases capped at 3%. A relocation package that includes temporary on-site or off-site relocation while a unit is being renovated or redeveloped, and the opportunity for income qualified residents to move back into a renovated or redeveloped unit, as well as the opportunity for over income households to move to an unrenovated unit at Barcroft or to a new construction unit when there are no more unrenovated units available at Barcroft. And over income residents, what that means is that they earn over 80% of area median income, which is about 131,000 for a family of four, and they're not eligible to move back to a renovated or redeveloped low-income housing tax credit unit. So since the acquisition back in 2021, there have been many market and financial pressures. This includes rising construction costs, higher than anticipated interest rates, and changes in tax credit pricing, challenges that really are consistent with those faced also by other affordable housing developers in Arlington and elsewhere. In addition, the initial commitments regarding over income households were based on in part on a 2022 self-reported income survey that did identify roughly 50 such households throughout the property. But in preparation for the site-wide low-income housing tax credit renovation program, the Gate Hudson Property Management conducted preliminary income certifications that included full income and source document reviews. And so those certifications now indicate that 100 or more households may be over income across the property. And then lastly, turnover of over income households has been lower than anticipated, which has created some on-site relocation challenges for income qualified households. So in other words, there are just less vacant units to accommodate the on-site relocation program. So in terms of what changes are being proposed, the financing plan amendments will allow for permanent off-site relocation for over-income households in future phases. Current commitments will remain for households in the first 4 phases who have their approved tenant relocation plans. But in future phases, General Lynch will also make best efforts to relocate over-income households on site in an unrenovated unit if available. And just to be clear, there are no change in commitments for households earning below 80% of AMI. Those households will maintain the 3% annual rent cap, as well as opportunity to move back to a renovated or redeveloped low-income housing tax credit unit. And there will be 134 units across the property, affordable up to 30% AMI upon renovation and redevelopment completion. But for over-income households that may need to move off-site, they will receive a relocation package, including a relocation payment or moving service provided, be placed on a priority wait list for a future new construction unit with that 3% annual rent increase cap on their market rent, or be placed on a priority wait list for a future unrenovated unit that may become available once the relocation process is complete with that same 3% annual rent increase cap on their market rate affordable rent. In addition, there will be information on housing resources, including where and help and assistance on where they can find alternate housing. I did want to show this map. This map shows where there is some alternate housing choices on Columbia Pike by elementary school corridor. According to the county's affordable housing dashboard, there are over 6,000 market rate affordable units, affordable up to 80% AMI along Columbia Pike, and could serve as nearby alternatives depending on vacancy. And in terms of public engagement, a resident meeting was held for the residents within renovation phases 5 and 6, which is undergoing a concurrent tenant relocation plan process. The tenant relocation plan for these phases was also considered at a February tenant landlord commission meeting. And on March 11th, they will be seeking approval of those plans from the tenant landlord commission. And the financing plan amendment will then be considered at the March County Board meeting. So the staff recommendations include the following: to approve the attached amendments to the financing plan, which allow for the permanent relocation of over-income households, and authorize and direct the county manager with the concurrence of the county attorney to act as the county board's representative in approving revisions to the attached amendments to the financing plan that are necessary to remove any ambiguity or inconsistency or improve the county board's financial security or financial position, and do not adversely affect the county financially prior to or after execution of the plan. And I do have one more slide on other updates. These updates typically, I think, are given during the development update portion of the meeting, but I wanted to be sure and include them in this presentation since they are other Barcroft items going to the board in March. So in addition to the financing plan amendment, there will also be consideration of a financing commitment letter needed for the 5th renovation phase of Barcroft. This is a requirement of Virginia Housing, and it essentially commits the county to a reallocation of a portion of the original 150 million loan to support the renovation and rehabilitation of this particular 182 unit phase. It's really just a requirement we go through as part of Virginia Housing's financing applications. And lastly, there will be a consideration of a consent letter that essentially allows for state historic tax credits to be used in the first renovation phase. State historic tax credits are an important source of financing for this phase and future phases. It's really another technical item that's needed in order to allow Jared Lynch to use this source of financing. So thank you, and that includes my presentation. I know I went through a lot really quickly, so I'll also be available for questions. And we'll turn it over to Kate for her presentation.
Thank you. I'm finally ready, so sorry about that, guys. Tough act to follow. So I have a few slides here. I'm going to try to kind of go through them quickly as well. So just, why are we not going forward? There we go. So just want to give you a little bit of an overview, a bit more detail than Melissa provided on the renovation updates with a map, which might help with some of all, when we start talking about all these different phases, kind of where we are on the tenant relocation plan, and moving around the site as we kind of match up incomes and renovation phases, and then kind of the changes we have in the upcoming phases. A lot of this Melissa covered and probably said more eloquently than I'll be able to, but I'm going to try. So again, you know, we're preserving affordability for generations, 1,335 homes for 99 years. The goal here is to really complete this $1 billion public-private partnership for affordable housing. It's what's all in where we're at. And again, Arlington and Amazon, we kind of have that acquisition loan, and then we've allocated a portion of it to each existing unit. The way that this works is we utilize LIHTC, private activity bonds, and as Melissa just mentioned, we're also using historic tax credits now, and we convert those acquisition loans into a complete to complete 969 renovations and 366 new homes. So the way that looks in space, hopefully this is helpful. We've been working on this for a long time, trying to figure out how all this puzzle piece fits together. The first phase, which is number 1 here, and the first units will be coming online any day now. We were able to walk them, which is really exciting for us after all these years of talking about it. But this is 93 units. We're working through that phase. Definitely was most like a pilot phase, this first one, trying to figure out all the pieces out. The second phase that's now under renovation is this 2 here. So these will all be completed in 2026. Then the next phases to come will be 3 and 4, and then the large phase that Melissa referenced in what's going to the county board is phase 5. All of those have already secured financing and investors, and we're moving through that process. All of the renovations, all 10 phases are expected to be completed by 2028. Because of the historic tax credits, we have some complications with doing any demolitions. The one exemption we did get was to start the new construction here, building 52 on Columbia Pike, which says number 1 here. And then the kind of dark blue is the ancillary development, as we call it, which is market rate and retail, kind of our more mixed use development, with additional affordable units to get to that full 336 or whatever it is. So that's the kind of overview of where we are. So kind of a current tenant relocation plan status for the phases 5 and 6. So the first 4 phases, there's no change here. But what we're getting to is, as we have more, and as Melissa indicated, as we have more over income tenants, those tenants can't go back into the renovated units. And so we don't have kind of enough swing units on site. And so in order to try to keep families that are under income on site or within the LIHTC program, we're kind of looking at a few changes. So here we had the kind of steps to our review is the draft tenant relocation plan was submitted, the tenant landlord commission. Then we went through the resident meeting on January 28th. Again, this is mimicking the schedule that Melissa had set out. Then February 11th is the tenant landlord commission meeting. And we expect to return to the tenant landlord commission on March 11th. And then begin the 120-day notices and one-on-one resident interviews. So the commitments that we're keeping for the existing residents, and there's no change for any resident that is at or below 80% AMI. And they will be able to move back to a substantially renovated or new construction home at Barcroft and maintain that 3% cap on annual increases. The proposed change is that existing residents that are above income earning 80% AMI will stay in an unrenovated home or receive a relocation assistance to move off-site, with the opportunity to move back to a new market rate unit once it's available with that capped annual increase. So, and again, as Melissa said, we're doing everything we can to keep people in those units on site, but our priority in the difficulty is with how many more people are over income than expected. So the changes kind of in the upcoming phases are that residents earning over 80% AMI will move to another unrenovated apartment or be relocated off-site with relocation assistance per the policies of the county. Households with school-age children or special accommodations will be prioritized for unrenovated units regardless of income. So far, they're very we've been really carefully tracking all of those attributes. There'll be a priority wait list again for residents who need to move offsite to return to an unrenovated unit once we stop needing them for the relocation of under income. Or the new market rate units once it's available at Barcroft. All residents will still continue to benefit from the 3% cap on annual rent increases at any point that they're living at Barcroft. So that's similar to the current commitments. And then on the other side of the slide here, we just tried to outline where Gates Hudson is being very careful, and we're trying to make sure providing good support for residents that are over income. So Gates will meet one-on-one with those residents to understand their risk, and so having everybody understand the risk to relocate offsite, but based on that preliminary income verification. And then over income residents locating offsite will receive the same relocation services as residents moving onsite with all expenses paid. Residents may choose to accept that relocation payment in lieu of services. Gates Hudson's team will also assist residents in their search for an off-site home and help residents transfer utility references and expedite the security deposit return if eligible. So Gates Hudson is fully prepared to work with families as they kind of work through the situation. And that's all I have today. So I'll stop sharing.
All right, thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, what's Gates Hudson? Are they the management company?
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, that's our property manager on site. They've been there since before our company bought the property.
Okay, thank you. And the over income people, what are the sizes of those units? Do we know?
No, we don't have a good feel for that, to be honest. It's a range, to be honest. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I would just say that, you know, Barcroft is majority one and two bedroom units. So I would imagine, probably there are a lot of, you know, it would kind of break out the same way in 1 and 2 bedroom units. I think there are maybe over 63 bedroom units currently on the property. So, just wanted to provide that information as well.
Thank you.
So if they over 80% AMI households move back, is the rent, do they pay market rate rent with 3% increases, or is that pegged on whatever their AMI level is, or is it capped at 80%, or what's that starting point?
Yeah, I think if they move into a market rate unit, it'll be that's always sort of been the agreement, is that it's the market rate rent, but that their rent is capped. The rent growth is capped because
if
they're
it's,
over income.
And just to add more clarification, thank you, Kate, that if the resident chooses to move back to a newly constructed building, you know, they would be paying that market rent and still getting the, you know, 3% caps thereafter. But there may be a possibility they will also be placed on a priority wait list for an unrenovated unit should it become available as the relocation process finishes. And it's my understanding the unrenovated units would be at a market rate affordable rent.
That's right. Yeah, those will be kind of at the NOAA level that Barcroft has been at historically. We're not leasing those at market rate.
So when Gates Hudson meets with these tenants that are, will they be offered like information about homeownership opportunities? Or do they need, or is there a way to connect with, because I do homeownership in my full-time job. So is there a way to connect these people with the programs that are available for people that make 80 to 120% of AMI? Or is that information I can provide to somebody so that when you meet with these tenants, they're offered that as a alternative?
Yeah, that's not something we've actually contemplated. We've seen residents moving into homeownership, which we always honestly celebrate because that in some ways is the goal. So I think that's a great addition and something we should definitely add to the information packet and to our resident services in general. Especially, I think one of the surprises of late is that each time we go through an income certification, there's more and more people that are over income. And so that means hopefully that they could get closer to home ownership. So that's a great suggestion.
And then the other thing is like in March, like the new 2026 HUD figures, have they come out yet or they have not? Like the AMI, they have not. Because then if some people that are right on the cusp.
Oh, the HUD figures. Yes, I'm not sure. Alex?
Or maybe they won't come out.
Not yet, I think later this spring. Yeah.
So and it's, because I'm concerned that some people that are right on the cusp, when we do a new adjustment, that they may be able to
Fall down.
fall back down.
Yeah. Again, we're like, when they do, we do adjust every time, and we'd rather have people move back into the LIHTC units. So if they're under income, we can move them back into the renovated units, and that is the intention of the program. And that was the commitment we made, and that's what we've been working towards. It's when people are over income that we can't move them back into a renovated unit that causes our issue. So we'll absolutely adjust and hope that they're, I mean, not, I don't know, hope, it's an awkward position, but your point's super well taken, that there's a lot of people that hover around that 80% AMI level, and, you know, dynamics of poverty in the county and in the country, you can kind of pop back and forth. So it's just kind of an unfortunate reality of where we sit with the way the LIHTC program works.
Yeah, and to that point, just to add on to that, because the difference between paying a Barcroft and then being pushed off into the market rate, even if there is that 3% rent cap, is can be very vast, right? For those families who are in that gray area where you're just floating around the 80% mark, I'd really like to get more assurances that the follow through can be expected if these new HUD numbers come out, which I think that'd be late April.
Well,
or
yeah, we do that every year. That is part of our program. That's how we update. That's just standard practice. So that's not anything new or different. There aren't that many home that like, you know, we are working with them. And again, the program, the idea here is that if you're making over 80% AMI, there are many options for you that are available that are affordable. So we have provided, you know, we're providing up to 80% AMI. The LIHTC program kind of protects people average at 60% AMI. And we really made an effort here because of income averaging to try to protect residents that go up to 80% AMI. So I hear you, and that is part of our standing operating procedure. We do meet with the county on a biweekly basis to go through income, to go through any situations where anyone's behind on rent. So we do revisit that on basically a biweekly update. Now, the income verification is a very difficult and arduous process. It was very difficult for us to even get residents to give us that kind of preliminary information. And again, as we go through the income verification on these first 93 units, we are finding more and more people that are actually over income. So we do the best that we can, and our property management company, Gates Hudson, works very closely with residents. We're open all the time. We have all of these information sessions. So we've done sort of everything we can think of, and again, in very close connection with the county without, you know, any daylight there, and following all of the policies and then some that are for relocation that are set out as guidelines.
Thank you. You know, mentioning working closely with the county on this, can you tell me to what extent you've worked with Bugata to, you know, include them in the process of identifying residents who may be in this circumstance, who are potentially at risk of being relocated? Will they be included in the future? Or is that not something that you're considering actively at this point?
Well, we are in communication with Bugata. We just met with them recently, and continue to work with them. They're fully informed of the situation.
The last slide before the thank you slide, there was something about an option for payment instead of services. Could you go into a little more detail on that? I wasn't really following.
Yeah, so we are offering relocation services so all tenants have paid moves as they move around the site as part of the renovation program. So we're offering that, or in lieu of that, you could choose to take the cash instead of having having the services. You can choose to use that money as you please. That's what we've been working on, again, in close connection with the county to figure out what makes this easiest for the few families we're talking about.
Got it. Thanks.
I got two questions. Thank you for your time. So the increase in the over income households, is that, maybe you don't have this data, but out of curiosity, is that due to the same families making more money, or is that new families in the units due to attrition of previous residents?
I think it's due to better information on income, to be 100% honest. So the first round was self-reported, and people we see. In fact, it's sort of a common occurrence as you income verify, as information gets more and more detailed, and you know. The final income verification process, they look at bank statements, and you can see, what happens is people's, maybe it's Uber Eats or something, kind of puts people over. So when people give you their first income, it's less detailed. So you see fewer people being over income. And then in the next round, it's a more detailed set of income verification materials. And then in the final round for the IRS to go move back into the LIHTC unit, it's a very detailed. And so in each one of those, we see more and more over income. The big jump, the jump was surprised all of us. I think we thought we were dealing with many more very low income people than we've ended up having. Kind of everyone's income not everyone. There's still a lot of very low income people at Barcroft who are the people, that 30% AMI, that we're working the hardest to make sure there's a safety net for. But the income verification, the other thing I should note is that we've been doing this since 2022, and we had a kind of historic increase because of the way that AMIs were calculated. We had a historic increase in that level that was discussed earlier, like each year that comes out from HUD. So we saw across the country incomes go up, that level. So who qualified we should have seen the opposite, given the direction that incomes have been moving. But we didn't, because it just the reality of, as you get more detailed on what your income is. That answers your question.
Okay, thank you. And then just my second question, maybe this is covered in the tenant relocation plan, but do you guys offer like caseworkers or for particularly I don't know, for families that require a higher level of service, folks with young children with specific disabilities, or what does that process look like during the relocation effort?
So I will say that there are, I think, maybe one or two that we know of today that are over income households that have children, and those families would be prioritized to stay on site. So a majority of the households that are over income actually do not have children living in them, and so, or with any special needs. We do provide connections to a variety of county services. Our Gates Hudson does work one-on-one with every single family, regardless of income, to kind of work through the process of even moving on site. Because Barcroft is 60 acres, it does span several school districts. We work as hard as possible when we're moving people to keep them as close as possible to the bus and the transportation situation they have as we move. But in order to modernize the property and pull off 1,000 renovations with about 1,000 tenants, households, that is not perfect, but we're doing the absolute best job we can.
So when you say you have a good amount of people that's over, is it like you have a percentage? Was it like 10%, 15%? Like, what was the percentage difference from I guess what they reported versus what finalized with? What was like the average percentage difference?
Percentage in their income difference? Is that your question is?
Yes.
I don't have that information off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the data more closely. I know the number of households doubled that were over income. So that went from 50, which was easy for us to think about as we moved people around the site, to 100. And then again, just in our most recent, we've got 20 income verifications done, and 6 of those So those households are actually over income, so they can't move back into the renovation. Our company actually stopped leasing 2 years ago, so we've been we've been taking that on ourselves, so we don't have income coming off the property. We've been holding artificial vacancy in order to try to accommodate everyone to stay on site. And we have debt that we're servicing, and we're kind of not in a that's the decision we've made and the commitment we've made to try to keep everyone on site. But we're just getting to a point where as those numbers continue to creep up, and as we recognize those households have other opportunities in the direct submarket to lease units that are affordable to them, and the commitment we made with the county was to people making under 80% AMI.
Just can I have a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, just a comment. I think that as much as it's hard to think about people having to relocate if they're over that 80% limit, I know that those units could be filled by those units would be filled by perhaps someone not living in Barcroft that's like at 60, right? So even if it's like, yes, for the incumbent, it's not good, but like how can you, if you were to say this was definitely a great benefit for people living at Barcroft, but there's so many other apartments nearby where they're struggling at 60 and below. So to ask, to me, it's not good to ask someone at 85 to say you have to move and then whatever. But it's also hard to ask someone that's not living at Barcroft to say, hey, sorry, we're going to prioritize this person living across the street that is not struggling as So I think it's important to understand that I think if this is a good mix of allowing incumbents that living here to still retain, but also giving this opportunity for people living, right next door, that they have this opportunity for not just people living in Barcroft, but others that can benefit from this. So it's
I totally agree. As long as those over income can find a unit that they can afford
right.
in the general area.
They can like swap essentially.
But yeah, I agree with the concept.
Right. And I mean, to that point, I think the concern I have and others I think also shares that swap is not easy nor guaranteed, right? So you're correct, right? You're looking at a household that is at 60% and got a household at 85, 90. Well, objectively, this household that's at 60% is struggling more than the 85, 90. So we could make it. But you get into a situation where someone's at 82, 83, not that much more than 80, they aren't guaranteed a swift or easy transition. I think that's really where I think we should be in constant communication with y'all and with the county to ensure that resources are being allocated to make sure that those people are able to be relocated quickly and in a situation where they are at least in a approximate economic range versus their previous location.
Well, I want to note that we are following the relocations policy, and these tenants do get 120-day notice. And they do get that one-on-one attention from Gates Hudson. Gates Hudson is providing information about, availability. There are many buildings that are affordable at that level. I understand that it's not the lottery that they won, but to the point they made earlier, the commitment is really for low income households, and unfortunately, the way we calculate low income in this country is using AMI.
Yeah, it's understandable. Any more questions, Abby? That.
So
action
item, yeah.
Yeah. So see. So there's 2 points.
Yeah, but probably just a motion to either approve or deny
Right.
staff's recommendation would probably be key.
To read off the staff recommendations.
We
Other two.
We do not need to read the actual staff recommendation, as long as we have a clear motion made by a commissioner. Yeah. as long as it's clear that it's approved with staff recommendation or denied staff recommendation.
A motion, the recommendation
Second.
to approve, motion to approve the recommendation of the.
How's that?
Okay.
All right, motion been made, seconded. I'll take a floor vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Guys have it. So motion passes. Thank you so much for coming in, sharing excellent presentation with us. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And please do connect us with the information about homeownership. That was a great suggestion. I want to make sure we don't lose that connection.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, we will. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next agenda, we have Alexa.
Yes, so the next item is the Alexian Courthouse, and we have Kedrick Whitmore online for this item.
All right.
Thanks, Alexander. Appreciate it. I will share my screen here. We've got a brief presentation, and then we'll be available for any questions you might have. So I will bring that up, and I'll ask Adam Stone from the applicant team to kick it off.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken. My name is Adam Stone with Trammell Crow Residential. We're the applicant developer for the proposed Alexian Courthouse project at 2015th Street North in the courthouse neighborhood. Yeah, if you can go to the slide. Trammell Crow Residential is a leading national multifamily developer with a strong local presence in the DC area. In the last 5 years, just in Arlington, we've delivered 3 buildings across 2 phases in the heart of Clarendon. And tonight we're excited to present our plans for 2015th Street North in Courthouse. So we've assembled a great team. SK&I is the architect, Land Design is landscape, Bowman doing civil engineering, and Venable is land use council. We appreciate you having us here tonight to present more information about the project, and I'll turn it over to Kedrick Whitmore with Venable, who can walk through the site location and design.
Great. Thanks, Adam. Here's a view of the vicinity map showing the location of the property within the heart of the RB corridor. And we zoom in a little bit further here. This is a closer view of the block. Want to point out a couple of things here in the area. You can see the property is in the blue box there. It's an obsolete existing office building with a very interesting triangular shape. You can also see here the important proximity to several focal points. The first is at the top left here, the Courthouse Metro. We're about a 4-minute walk from the Metro. The second is Courthouse Plaza that you see just to the left of the site location. And coming out from that Courthouse Plaza is a view to the Washington Monument. That's an important view that exists today and that was called for preservation in the applicable courthouse plan. And that's something that we've designed around here, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And then finally, to the south is the Telus Apartments with the plaza there. And we've done a lot of design work to try to link into that existing plaza to make a much better place with a through connection between Taft and Troy Streets. So the next slide zooms in a little bit further here. You can see the existing conditions. The photos on the right show what is out there today, kind of walking around the site on the 15th and Troy Street side. You can see a lot of concrete, a lot of brick, a lot of grade change. Not a great pedestrian environment and one that we're excited to improve dramatically. You can see on the left side of the slide here, the grade measurement. The grade actually drops down about 22 feet as you move northeast from that southwest corner to the northeast corner. That's a very big drop off and is a physical constraint that we've had to deal with in our site design and is part of the reason the pedestrian environment that exists today is suboptimal. This slide provides some of the same views just from the other side, from Taft Street and ultimately from the Telus Plaza. Essentially the same story, that there's a lot of concrete, not a great pedestrian environment, and ripe for some real improvement with redevelopment of this site. So with all that in mind, here's some information about our proposal and our proposed program. You can see that we're proposing 394 units, a little over 400,000 square feet of density overall and associated parking. This proposal is in conformance with the existing GLUP and the courthouse sector plan and sector plan addendum. And it also provides a number of enhancements to the public realm that we think are going to be of great benefit to the area. So I wanted to move on to talk a little bit about how we designed the building. You can see here in the top left, we started with the full volume of a building that could be achieved under the existing zoning. Obviously, we're not going to build a building that looks like that. We then carved out this horseshoe that you see at the bottom left. And that was both to allow light and air into the building and also to provide the opportunity to connect to that Telus Plaza to the south that I mentioned earlier. We then went and pushed the bars back, again, to provide light and air and also to preserve that view to the east, to the Washington Monument that we talked about. And then finally, we dropped the bar farther to the west down, again, to help preserve that view toward the Washington Monument and also to create some nice visual variety in the massing of the building. So I mentioned earlier that view. Here's the view to the Washington Monument on the left, the view that exists today. And on the right, we've essentially put in a rendering of what our building is going to look like. You can see that lower bar here in the foreground, the upper bar in the background, and importantly, it preserves that view east to the Washington Monument. Just for comparison's sake, this is a more blocky model that doesn't have the detail of the articulation of the building, but it shows, you can see here to the right of it, that's the existing building poking out. So we're actually going to be moving the mass of the building back from that view from what it is today. So not only preserving the view, but actually improving the view, which we're very happy about. Dropping down to the site level, here is a plan showing what our circulation is going to look like and what our entrances are going to look like. You can see you've got the vehicular entrances kind of in the corner here on Taft Street with ped entrances along 15th Street. This allows folks to have easy access to head to the metro. I'll also point out that this connection here to the Telus Plaza that we've created will allow folks to be able to cut through the site to create some porosity and connection that doesn't exist today. Because today, one would have to go through the Telus site, come all the way down almost to the bottom of the block and walk all the way back up to the metro. Now someone can essentially just cut across the center of the site once this proposed building and these improvements are in place. A few isometric views of the architectural detail here that I'll show to you. You can see our rooftop amenities, the pool here, and you can see how that bar is pushed down closest to the west, to the Courthouse Plaza view. You can also see the location of the Telus Plaza in relation to our building. I won't dwell too much on these renderings of the architecture, but happy to go back and talk about any of these if you all would like. There are views from 15th Street. Here's a view of what will be the main entrance up on 15th Street. Some additional close-ups of that entrance. And finally, wanted to talk a little bit about biophilia here. As I discussed and showed you earlier, the existing site is a lot of concrete, very dead, not very pedestrian friendly, and I don't think even had ever heard of the word biophilia before. We've taken great pains and spent a lot of time to help design the interior plaza to be biophilic. And I know we talk about that a lot, so I may be redundant with some of these, but we've really taken to heart the need to have light, to have nature-inspired forms, to have organic patterns, rather than the really sterile, stark elements that exist today. So you can really see that in how we've built out and proposed this open space and this connection up from the Telus Plaza. So with that, I'll close out our presentation and we'll be available for any questions you might have. I should also note, in terms of process, we've completed our first SPRC. Our second SPRC is going to be at the end of this month. Thank you.
You actually already got to one of my questions I was going to ask about where any other opportunities for us to weigh in. So thank you for preemptively mentioning it. So I make a quick comment that I'm a big fan of this project. It's actually right in front of where I live, my apartment. So I walk this area all the time with my dog. You probably see me with her. and I can't agree more, right? It is a tad bit of an eyesore, so it's good to know that there is going to be some life breathed into the space, and especially as you mentioned that the pedestrian area around it as you're getting from 14 past Telus is a little bit treacherous. So I'm appreciative that you've taken that into consideration as you're doing it. But acknowledge any questions.
So I'm also kind of a fan. My gym is in the Telus building, so I'm very familiar with the site. And I looked at the building, and it's and the brickwork at the bottom didn't trouble me. It was this big glass triangle, and I thought it was brand new. And when I found out it was going to be redeveloped, I said, "Oh my God, that's a waste of resources. They're going to tear down this relatively new building." What is the age of the building?
40 years old, his mid-80s.
40 years old, and you looked at it, it wasn't economically feasible to convert it into residential, I take it, right?
No, it's not. I think one of the biggest interesting parts about that here is it was studied, but there is quite a density gap between what exists there today and what we can come back and do with this proposal. So what exists today, if you were even to attempt to convert, ignoring some other factors, could max out at about 180 units. And what we're proposing is close to 400. So I think there's just such a big gap there that there can be a lot more units provided in this option.
So right now, that all that triangular, that's all open space and trees, right? That borders on the Telus Plaza.
There are trees here. I don't know that I'd call it open space. I mean, you can kind of see the slopes here. It's not in a great condition for use. There's not an easement over it currently. It's all private property and a private courtyard that serves the office.
Okay. Well, it's a great location. I mean, the subway stop is right there, and it will fit in with the Odyssey. And well, that's a condominium. This is rental, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any idea of what the average rent would be for this property? Yeah. All things considered, and obviously it's a hot spot. It's right next to the courthouse metro station. But hopefully as we get more density, right, we're looking to flatten prices, hopefully, if not lower them, for families who are moving to areas, a place that's particularly frequented by a lot of working class people, younger people in general, who pick this space specifically because it is easier to get to the metro to go to work. That's exactly why they're there. So I'd like to know if you have any intuitions of what you're expecting to be the average rent.
Adam, I don't know if we've even put that together yet, anything related to the average rent.
No, we don't have any kind of the specifics just yet.
Okay. Yeah, when do you expect to get that?
And is that, I actually don't know the answer. I mean, is that something that's set by the management group, like separate and apart from the development group, Adam, or is that, I'm not sure what the process is for putting that together.
When you get to that detailed level, it's when you bring in your property management group to get to kind of the unit by unit level.
And so would this be like something that a Bizzuto or somebody else would manage the property for you all, right? Separate and apart from the development. So I think the answer is, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the answer is like this group would develop the property and then hire a separate consultant that comes in and essentially runs it, and included in that sets the rents, right? And decides what the rents are.
Yep.
And just to belaboring this point, I'd appreciate if, as you're having this conversation, as you're looking for a contractor to do that process for you, to keep this in mind, because there's a level of leverage you have as you are looking for property managers to contract with, and ask them what they believe is a fair price, and you can continue to have those conversations and find out what a sampling of groups may say, right? You can get a sense of what the average is, and then make your decisions based upon that. So just to keep that in mind, I think is really important for this group and for the county generally, that is where making these approvals and moving through this process, that we're doing our due diligence such that there is some concern shown for the residents who will eventually occupy these spaces.
Absolutely.
Yes.
2 questions on sustainability. Is the park, it looks like the parking garage, is that going to be kind of retained with the same number of spaces as what's there? Or is it going to be readjusted or reinforced?
So what we're going to do is demo the parking garage down to the lowest slab for a couple of reasons. One, the footprint of our new building is not the same as the existing buildings. The column grid and structural support does not line up. So for that reason, you do need to reset the columns anyway. The good news, I think the opportunity that comes with that is the existing garage today is 4 stories. And that's based on parking ratios typical for office buildings in the 1980s, right? And our expected parking ratios are quite a bit lower. So for our purposes, we actually, of the 4 stories existing today, we only intend to build back 3. So the grade change, the elevated plaza you see here is what gives us the opportunity to take what's there today and bring it down to street level. So the park connection that we're creating, instead of being elevated in the existing condition today, will be consistent with the existing sidewalk grade and more accessible that way. So it will be we will be building back a new garage, but it will be smaller than what exists today.
Yeah, I think this is a good example of like just how wonky the garage and the associated street frontage ends up being. I mean, this is kind of all garage here that dominates the area because of, and you can see the elevation there because of the way it's built today. So while we are demoing most of it, it kind of unfortunately needs to be in this case.
And second point, a question is that for the glass, do you know what the bird-friendly glass, if you're going to do that, but even if you don't do that, it looks like the surface area of the glass is still going to be a lot less than what was there. And like, I don't know if that was bird-friendly. So even the strikes, it looks like regardless, this design is will result in lower bird strikes. Is that something that would be assumed?
The existing is most definitely not bird-friendly glass. It is built at a time when that was not really considered.
I just have a really odd question. What is the name Alexon? Like, where did that come from?
Fair question. It is a company branding marketing name. Okay. So if you look at kind of a lot of our, the projects I mentioned earlier, the Earl, when we delivered it, was originally Alexon Earl, Alexon Fitzroy. So it's a company branding marketing.
Yeah.
But usually we'll use that, and then we will select something specific to a neighborhood or a location to go with it.
I had the same question.
I have one final one, and I am on the SPRC for this, and I forgot that I even attended February 5th. One of the questions I have is the main entrance of the development is going to be at the intersection of 15th Street and Taft.
Yep.
Is that that's going to be the entrance?
Yes.
Okay. One of the pet peeves I have, I live in Roslyn. We have a lot of development there. And you've heard of pickups and drop-offs and the issues of cars blocking traffic and stuff like that. And one of the things I've been trying to do is get someone in the county to require bump outs for the entrances, so at least the Uber and the DoorDashes and the people can drive in and not block traffic. The county's response has been, we allow 15-minute parking along the street. That does not do it. People park more than 15 minutes. So I'm just warning you that you have the Odyssey across the street. You got other rental units. The chairman lives on the street there. Those streets are kind of narrow. And with the concentration of deliveries of Amazon and all, the new gig economy that does all the deliveries, you may have a little bit of a problem. Where are you anticipating deliveries for that? And don't say the loading dock, because they never use the loading dock. Thank you.
No, it's a good flag, and it's one we always discuss in any SBRC. Excuse me. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze. It's one we discuss in every transportation SPRC, and I know that the county often has different ideas about what that loading and PUDO area ought to look like. I've had projects where we've proposed laybys and that kind of thing, and DES is not a fan of those. So there is like I think a natural tension, right, in terms of how that gets resolved. That is something though that I think would make sense, Adam, for us to address at the next SPRC, because that's a transportation SPRC. So talking about and thinking about where that PUDO area and the Amazon drop-offs will be, I think makes sense to provide.
I'll re-raise it just in case. And I'll share with you the letter that I sent the county dated January 26th on that very issue. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I think I'm looking at I think 37 studio. I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong, 37 studio, 221, 122, 15.3. I don't know if it's changed, but that's just what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's correct.
Action items.
It's just
Information.
This one.
Did we talk about the affordability?
Yeah, we didn't actually.
Okay, go ahead. You wanted to-
No, you do.
Okay, I guess I'll ask one more question. Sorry about
I
that.
think it's fine.
The affordability,
What are the CAFs?
Yeah, we don't have that yet. We're waiting for a proposal back from the staff, which I'm told we're going to get in the next week or two. But we're not there yet in terms of what the numbers are. But there will be on-site CAFs. I mean, that's part of our community benefits package. As you all know, right, there are a number of things that go into it, and this open space here will be part of it, and our other design elements will be, but there will certainly be CAFs on site.
thank you.
Yeah, looks like a lot of 3.17 bonus density.
Okay.
I think.
It's a big bonus on this one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And make sure we'll get an update on this as it comes out, so you get more information from staff.
Yeah, and so we will hear this item again the month that it's considered by the county board as an action item as well. So yeah, that's the next step for this. But just an information item today.
All right. Thank you all so much for coming and speaking with us. Really appreciate the informative discussion here, and look forward to seeing you later through the process.
Terrific. Appreciate your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Fire at Fairmont.
Okay, Aspire at Fairmont, and I believe, is it Jessica or John?
Yes, John. Hi, how are you?
Hi, just the
And
Washington.
And do you all have a presentation to share?
Yeah.
Yes, bringing it up.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is John Carden. I'm with Aria Development Group. I'm a managing director of development here. Our company has been working in the Washington, D.C. area since 2009, and we have a really strong emphasis on just expanding housing opportunities in the cities in which we work. We really value well-located, transit-oriented projects that increase the housing supply, and finding creative strategies to get projects built. We have presence in DC, New York, Miami, Nashville, Charlotte, Kansas City, and with this project now, Northern Virginia. It's our first project in Arlington. We couldn't be more excited to be here today. Personally, I've been working in the DC area since 2005 for over 20 years with numerous projects in Washington, DC proper, but first one in Virginia. This project is at the corner of of North Fairfax Drive and Vermont Street in Ballston. It is sited at the location of the planned west entrance to the Ballston Metro, which has been planned for over 20 years. And we understand that the Metro is fully funded. And the county and WMATA are in the process of vetting contractors to take on what is presently a 35% design to a design build contract and then start construction with the goal of opening in a couple of years. So hopefully our project will open up to the brand new front door to the Metro. This is a site plan that was approved in 2006 and was never built. It's at the site of a existing office building that was built in the 1960s. It is still existing today and is partially tenanted, including a Arlington County Public Schools location for Arlington County, for Arlington Community High School. And that school is there through the fall, and then we'll be relocating to Metropolitan Park at Amazon's building. So that was a short-term temporary location for the school at this site, and they're moving there in the near future. So what we've presented is an amendment to a site plan that was approved in 2006, but didn't get built. This is the plan that was approved at that time. We've been keeping as you'll see in the renderings to come, we've kept the general intent of the massing, the height, the shape of the building, the general use as residential, and the total gross floor area. So in 2006, it was approved as 235,758 square feet with about 7,000 square feet of retail, 5 levels of parking at 241 spaces, 103 bicycle parking spaces, 2 loading berths at 30 feet, a height of 246 feet, and 237 units. Our current proposal maintains a similar shape of the building with a podium that's 10 stories and a tower that extends up to the 246 feet, with a amenity deck on the top of the 10th floor and a small amenity area at the top of the building. It has the same or slightly higher GFA at 246,780 square feet for residential, and retail just below 5,000 square feet. The parking, because we are in a kind of a different era than when the building was built, and there's an emphasis on lower parking counts near metro stations, and the site is located at the metro, we feel strongly about having less parking. So we are planning for 2 levels with 88 total parking spaces, 82 for residents at a 0.27 unit ratio, and 6 visitor parking spaces at a 0.02 unit ratio. Bicycle parking, the bike room will have access from Vermont Street at the main primary room, and then there's a secondary bike room in the top level of the garage, totaling 132 spaces, which also includes about 10 spaces along the sidewalk. We're maintaining the 2 30-foot loading berths, and the building height remains the same at 246 feet. And we are planning for a more dense scheme, targeting as many units as we could accommodate at the site of the metro station. This is a look at our ground floor plan. So the lobby here is in the center, flanked by retail on both corners. You can see here is the WMATA elevators. On the other side of Vermont Street is this future stairwell down to the metro entrance. From these locations, there will be a pedestrian tunnel that takes you kind of into the underneath of Fairfax Drive to the tunnel, which is currently a few blocks down. So this will be a much more convenient location for people living in the western portion of Ballston to get to the metro than are presently able to. We've been working with the county on the streetscape improvements, and the plan has evolved to what you see here from prior iterations, which had less of a curb extension. Now we have a 40-foot wide curb extension for bus pickup and drop off, and then a parking zone here that is inset, which would be for vehicular pickup and drop off. And the curb then extends out over here to accommodate better sight lines for cars entering and exiting off of Fairfax Alley. We're situating 4 surface parking spaces here. And in the rear of the property, we used to have another 4 spaces here, but we've modified the plans to add a little pet run for dogs and other pets that might use it. That was something that was requested by the county and neighbors of the Continental and the Boston Virginia Square Civic Association to just green up the area a bit more and offer a spot for pets to play and relieve themselves that wouldn't damage the landscaping in the surrounding area. Continuing around, this is the parking garage entry off of the Fairfax Alley, and then this is the loading dock entry off of Vermont Alley. The alley network is actually on land that is owned by the Continental condominium, but we have an easement to have ingress and egress and use for access into our building. So we're working closely with the Continental on how this is designed, closely with the county. Back to the renderings, just to kind of close it out with views of the building. So we've tried to freshen up the design, and part of going through this process is bringing the design up to present day architectural aesthetics and present day county codes, building codes, regulations, standards, et cetera, as you saw with some of the streetscape stuff. So we're really pleased with this. We think this will bring a nice, fresh, modern take on a high-density mixed-use building right at the front door to the new metro, and help reinvigorate this portion of Fairfax Drive. Thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions. In terms of timing, because I know that might come up, we just had a site plan review committee meeting a few weeks ago, and are going back for our second site plan review committee meeting at the end of next week.
Questions for this one?
I attended the first, the designate for the site plan review. Interestingly enough, the Continental condominium people are actually receptive of the project. A few of them complained about they're going to lose their view, but most of the comments were very acceptance of the development, which actually kind of surprised me. One comment I have, the main entrance is going to be on North Fairfax Drive.
Yes.
Okay. This is a pet peeve of mine with all the robust development we're fortunate to have in Arlington, but we do have problems. I live in Roslyn. We have a lot of development there, especially on North Lynn. Pickup and development, the new Ditmar building that's on a smaller street right near the Turnberry. The deliveries are killers but the cars just park in the street and run in for the delivery. So where do you contemplate the deliveries for your 200, how many units? 294 units?
It's 302.
Excuse me, 302. In our gig economy with DoorDash and Uber and stuff like that, where are you going to receive those cars?
Sure. So let me pull up the plan again. So this zone is pick up and drop off. So I think there was discussion at the SPRC of really desiring for a short term. I don't know what the timing is. I think it's up for the county to determine. But you know, if there's a 15-minute pickup drop off, 30-minute short term, whatever it is, this would be the zone for that. For loading, that would be back here. But I recognize that the typical Uber or DoorDash is going to just try to be close to the lobby, which again is something we talked about, and so that was reserving these spaces for that purpose.
Let me tell you the practice. I live in a condominium, and the Amazon deliveries come right through the front door. But fortunate, we do have a hotel next to us with an apron, so sometimes they'll park in the apron, but if not, they will park right on 19th Street. The 15-minute loading does not work. And this is something that I'm dealing with the county with. Their response is, well, we allow three 15-minute parking spots. That really does not work.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a heads up that may be a problem. Fairfax Drive is very busy, plus you're gonna have people being dropped off with Ubers for maybe even the new subway entrance or stuff like that, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, we put forth a plan that did not have this curb extension and that had 4 extra parking spaces back here. The county has requested that we remove these and that we extend this. So we're trying to offer the best we can. Also, I just want to point out that Vermont Street, we've widened from the existing conditions. Although there are signs allowing parking here, the street is not really wide enough for cars to go by and cars to be parked here and for 2 lanes of traffic to comfortably fit. So we're widening the street while keeping the corner bumped out. So it should relieve some tension on this street too. So I think we're doing the best we can within the confines.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Just a general comment. I think this is a great, piece of density and type of building. This is a really high units per acre count, almost 500, which is like really, really, really nice to see on top of the metro. And I think you have so much efficiency when you can lose all that parking spaces, because, it generates less trips and puts that parking demand able to be filled with all these other garages that are pretty a lot of openings, so that people, because it's such a high intensity location in terms of walkability, you can get to so many options. So I think this is a great development. As we've seen different proposals come in, very few locations in the county can support this sort of level of units because of either the zoning or because of it's too far to the metro to have that demand. So I think this will be a great fit and really capitalize on public investment in metro that we're putting here, because to the west side is a little bit, there's even Ballston is not, if you look at it as the metro station, it's not performing as well as other neighborhoods that are a similar caliber, across the DMV. Like, you look at like Noma Station, for example, gone up much higher. I mean, that's the leader, but to make an investment to a second entrance, I think is important that, we capitalize off the public investment that we're getting from, MVTA, MVTC, because that's the region investing in us. So like, this is a great private sector investment to capitalize on that, because this western entrance, right now Ballston is not climbing as far as other stations that only have one entrance, like Foggy Bottom, so it's like, we got to show that we're worthy of, not like worthy, but to really capitalize on this investment, that it's going to be a huge value add to this property and surrounding properties.
It's a beautiful example of transit-oriented development, and we're all excited about it. It's also really nice to be presenting a building that's tall, steel and concrete construction, right where it's supposed to be, right in the heart of what I think is one of the densest census tracts in the United States, which is kind of cool too. So we've been excited. There's been some excitement among the staff, et cetera, about working on a building like this, and so we're really proud of it.
And thank you for the positive feedback. We agree with everything you said and are pleased to be developing this building.
Yeah.
Questions? Really appreciate you coming and sharing your presentation. Thank you so much. And
welcome.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
you. So on the last item, we took one public comment, which is Alice on the budget. We want to do that before we go through now.
Let's do her first.
Okay.
Again, because we also need to share the me too, so it's better to properly. Okay.
I got it. Actually, I'll take it away.
It's a blue color.
Bougie.
Expert.
Yeah.
These are notes from Kellen. It's a different document.
Oh, okay.
You have the notes on the budget itself. So,
I think I have that. I think I have.
you.
Yeah, I just printed off what you guys.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm good, thank you.
Yep. Alice. Ready to make comment?
Public comment on the budget.
Budget, excuse me. Because we're going to development updates. Yes, please, I would like to do that. Yes.
New York.
Okay. Alice Hogan with Navajo, the Northern Virginia Affordable Housing Alliance, project director. Now we're all taking a look at the proposed budget. I think we can affirm the county for their attention to housing needs that are increasing, and for fair housing funding that we've been looking for, as well as continuation of the CAP inspections. I do think there are some problematic areas, and some, I think, discussing this evening, housing grants being limited to fewer than we have this year, and also being capped as a program is very problematic when we know that we are going to have more renters with more needs as we move forward in the year and years to come. But I did want to affirm that it looks like the youth aging out of foster care will finally have a chance, which is wonderful. Permanent supportive housing, also a very problematic area. We have extreme unpredictability in the amount and the requirements of future federal funds for PSH. New timelines, potential requirements, and it looks like the state will have to follow some of those to be able to get that money. So we will have to look to our localities to make up any of those funds, and it's really going to put our very low income neighbors with disabilities, domestic violence survivors, unhoused persons, and those facing eviction at extreme risk. So we would like to know if the county board would be willing to ensure that any of the $44 million they'll be putting as a total now into the contingency fund might be available if we get to where there's not enough housing grant or permanent supportive housing funding for those vulnerable families. We did want to affirm the targeted and flexible assistance and eviction prevention monies. But again, if there are not enough, depending on what unfolds on the federal level, will the county be willing to tap into that 44 million, or really to find out what they have in mind for it? And hopefully these populations are among the ones they would be considering. We lack enough AHIF, which we all know and we can go into later. And I'll draft an email and send it to you all because I can see my time is going. But one concern I had and have not been able to verify, but I understood from your meeting last week, the presentation or last month from DHS, that they're down by one housing locator position, and that is super problematic if we're looking at this much eviction risk right now. So I think it'd be prudent of us to verify if that's the case. And then I know you all are looking at, and we also have a list of suggestions that are low or no budget impact actions that the county and the staff can take in these sort of low budget times when we know. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Good comments. We move on to the housing budget and some new here from Ellen as well. So first we have the housing grants program. It's got a total funding of $17,700,000 one-time funding set aside $100,000 for a wait list. So I want to just read these bullet by bullet. Trust you all taking a look at this. I'd rather honestly go over any questions folks have or concern. Some may speak to what Alice was mentioning. Also to kind of briefly address some of the comments that come left on the backside of the document as well as on the page. Our housing grant program. So one point of conversation at the county board is proposing a cap on the number of households receiving housing grants in 2027. So obviously we are in a budget constrained year, but we're also experiencing record need for affordable housing. So reducing the number of housing grant recipients is it's draconian in a lot of ways, right? And recognizing that there are areas where we're going to need to be frugal doesn't obviate the need for us to take care of vulnerable populations. So I think it's a point that we're going to have to contend with as the county is proposing to reduce the number of housing grant recipients by 93 from 2026 levels down to 2027. And is something I think if we are going to look at kind of a larger picture, we're having developers and people come in and present on these programs I think are going to be really helpful. The other half of the equation is also this, right? What are we going to do regarding the cutting back of funds for vulnerable families? So that's one point I want to bring up to everyone to get input on as church, considering citizen conversation we'll have with the county board. I think we need to keep this in mind as well. So
The goal of this discussion to inform a recommendation letter? Like, I guess, what are we trying to achieve today? Just so I understand.
yeah, so I think that could be a part of what we do moving forward. I'd like for us to approach this with the intent of developing some sort of action item, not just to purely review this, but for this to inform conversation we have with the board, either at a personal basis or in a formal manner. This is informative for me also, right?
Okay.
It's giving information.
Board's meeting on this March 24th, I think.
Yes,
Right.
that's correct. And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong.
24th is the public hearing for the entire budget.
I think
For the entire or just for the house? Well, I thought it was just for this portion. And I'm like,
I can confirm.
I put it on my calendar, I thought it was just the house.
It's the whole hearing.
I know what was going to happen at some point is that the county is proposing that there just be kind of like an omnibus session, right? Where all the commissions will come in and make comment. There isn't going to be the kind of process we had before where it's been more one-on-one, which I think that's what maybe you and I are thinking of, what I've heard, and this could be wrong. It's going to be a kind of longer session where all of the commissions are invited to make a comment, which it reduces the amount of touch point we have with the county board to actually shape the thing. So it'd be good to know
So
when it's going to happen.
That is March 18th, or 1/4/30.
Did you hear that?
So somebody comes in this month.
House, yeah,
I
something.
just want to make sure
Oh,
you
yeah,
heard that because it's different events.
yeah. Okay. That's also a reason why I want to go through these, with the idea of having points to really hammer on, because we don't have A, lot of time to do this, B, many opportunities to make meaningful public comment here. We're all going to be lumped in with like every other commission.
Right.
Gotta.
Like Kellen is have an action item. Plan to have an action item next month.
Got it. Okay.
I have a question on one of the points in the analysis, and it's, I think, unless I'm reading it wrong, contradicts what Alice said. When it says when it ends, expanded housing grants eligibility category for youth aging out of foster care. So,
Oh my goodness, I thought it was.
Yeah, I've read that.
I mean, that sounds opposite.
Yeah, he's gonna have a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's rough.
Gotta be in the fine print.
I mean, draconian, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping that we can maybe come up with some like tough points to hammer on, because this is is real rough, for a lot of folks. And I don't know, like, if, I trust that folks have done due diligence, but I don't know if the cure is better than the poison here, right? I think I saw someone's hand up a second ago.
Yeah, 2 points. One, like, yeah, I think this is, if you think about costs, like, if you don't give this person a grant that is aging out in foster care, you're gonna end up spending more.
Yeah.
And that hits all these other categories. So that's just like a no-brainer to me. Is like, let's spend the money to save money, right?
Yes.
And I think just in general, I like the idea of keeping our funding for these programs in line with the need. That, like, as a principle, and and I like that these are general funds, so everyone is paying into this program. And if you think about equity, it's like, yeah, as a county, we need to align our we align our budget with our values, and it's like everyone pays into this. We gotta, ideally, if, like, let's say the need goes down, okay, I can see maybe we're like, okay, we're gonna start maybe not ramping up as much because we saw a great need go down. But if there's needs that we're seeing going up, then the grants and all these other programs, I think, need to be indexed to that need. And if we deviate, there's got to be, where is this going to, and or what can we, because that is our community values. If we're seeing this divergence, that's a big problem.
Yes. And I think that's the issue, that has not been articulated. The alternative, which we would all expect to be somewhere on the side, right, hasn't been clearly outlaid, to me at least. What I understand is just we're cutting it, and there it is.
Pictorial, there's like a one pager. We don't have a copy of it, of the budget. There's really not enough money, basically.
I mean, we're working with finite resources
And so
we're
they're,
gonna have to,
so they're trying to do
right.
they're trying to do the best they can with what we have. There's not enough money to do what we all want the county to do.
Well, and that's, sorry, it was Margaret that raised my hand, was that's my question is that, like, I just would like to know if we've got some context for, because my understanding was that the overall county budget is significantly down. So that's where I'm just looking at it is that it is every department / commission / area of interest having to sort of, give their ounce of blood, because tax revenues are down. And so, and as a result, the pie is smaller. So everybody's piece of the pie is going to be smaller. And so then that's a question as to, where do we give it up? And, we are from what I can see, there's a big bump in the homeless budget. And is that where we've chosen to do our bump? And so therefore we're level funding everywhere else.
Well, it actually brings us into the next point with permanent supportive housing. So I'm happy you raised that point. It's something that our last meeting, speaking with the team up there, and they deal directly with that. So we do have, the second point, the county is anticipating filling 342 contract units, all of their available sources. We got state, local, and federal. So there's a bump up, right, 2025, 2026. Now, from what I understand, there's some odd accounting there, right? So that bump is present, but I'm not sure how much of that is going to be like liquid, like how much the county is going to be able to just use for their permanent supportive housing plans. if I'm not mistaken, at least on the HUD side, it looks like there hasn't been any like major downsizing on their homelessness, their eviction program.
Out of court. I mean, they stopped them. I mean, they tried reducing them, but they're hung up in court.
Right. Oh,
Or the court said you gotta release it.
so that will be helpful because that's one of the areas where who cares worried about that they're gonna have to backfill all the money that they would normally get from the federal government with state and local funds. I know the legislature, they're rolling out their housing packages, so we may be getting more affordable housing investment funds out of Richmond, but that only goes so far. It won't completely nullify the gap that the HUD resources would be substituting in. So that's just kind of a wait and see thing. Like Joe said, they got held up in court, so we'll see if that turns out in our favor. But in the meantime, they're still trying to adjust for a present need. Now, I don't have the figures on hand, I'm sure, but the current rate of homelessness in Arlington is.
Not off the top of my head, but I'm happy to ask Steve.
That's gives them if that need had increased or increased according to the population. So I was saying it's gone up. So with that in mind, we don't know even if the bump from what so 5.5 million up to about 7 million, whether that is even commensurate with the bump, right? So you're getting increase in money, but if the demand is much higher than the resources, it's a wash.
So there's a 12% increase.
Oh,
yeah. Well, 1.4 to 25.
Do they know if individuals, is it Arlington residents or is it individuals coming from other jurisdiction? And can we get funds from other jurisdictions to help because of people are relocating here because they feel they can get the housing back here?
Well, it says that, did you see the bullet? It says removes the Arlington residency requirement. I was going to ask a question about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullets down. I'm sure there's history. I know we've talked about this before. I just don't know what the context is.
Yeah.
For the housing grants
They
program.
mentioned it at during their presentation last weekend. It was county attorney guidance. So basically to be in compliance with law. I'm not sure if that's state or federal. I'm not sure exactly what law.
They have to do it.
They did, I mean, I don't think there's a choice.
Got
So-
it. Just to your point, yeah.
So this point is
Can't shake people up.
Oh, okay.
Like, were you asking about if people come for a shelter in the homeless shelter?
From
Or if
other
they wanted help?
jurisdictions. Oh, both. How about both?
Okay, so if they arrive at a shelter and they are unhoused, they'll keep them for the night, and then if they have another connection to another jurisdiction, they provide them, I think, transportation to go be sheltered in their home jurisdiction. So they're not on the street, but they don't keep them long-term in a shelter.
Okay.
But the housing grant is changing now where anybody who comes and it qualifies can use it if they're from an outside jurisdiction, which is new for us this year.
Well, that is.
So not only do we get 93 fewer, we also will be open to other folks if they hear or arrive.
that's not trying to sound callous, but like that's an area where I think we should also be having a conversation. We're opening up the county for, and it's as I understand, legal statute, right? But it doesn't negate the fact that we are proposing to push off almost 100 people from resources who are in Arlington. At the same time, we are saying, if you're coming from Fairfax, Alexandria, DC, we can't do anything about that.
It's been well thought out that they just cannot turn away.
Yeah. No,
And I know that the county staff is doing their best to be equitable, not end up in court.
yeah, no,
Yeah, but what
I don't
court?
think
Is it state or federal? I don't think it's federal.
Not federal.
Not now, at least.
On another note, when I was at last week, like APAC, for example, they're serving more than double the amount of
Yes.
people that they were.
Yep.
So
I mean, this is borne out over a number of metrics, right? And I'm not dating the county for the budget. Is probably a well-reasoned explanation why they're doing this. I'm just looking at the numbers, right, that we're dealing with, and we're in a position where we're needing to make tough decisions, and as a part of that, opening up the pool of resources to folks who aren't in Arlington. That's it's like you're just kind of like.
Because I get what you're saying, you're doing
Yeah.
a lot, because if we're trying to do eviction prevention,
Right.
and then you have, I don't know how they.
well, actually,
Yeah,
very
but
carefully,
like-
eviction prevention, they do have some caveats. So
Take a quick look at.
I mean, I don't know. It's up to the commission, but if this is something that the county attorney general already looked at, like, I don't, like, why are we're not, I think some of you have JDs, but like, that's not really our role, right? Like, I don't.
We can't fight City Hall.
Yeah, I just feel like it's not a good use of our time if, like, I don't think Arlington wants to be spending money on people that aren't Arlingtonians if they could help it.
exactly.
So I feel like it's not a good use of our time to be sitting here and trying to figure out, oh, did the attorneys like do their due diligence? I'm sure they did.
They put, if you read it very carefully, they have put the caveats where they can. put
Yeah, I'm
caveats
sure they, the
To
legal team did what
discourage,
they
to
could.
discourage.
Yeah.
But this must be other jurisdictions too, right? They can't. So in Arlington, I'm just saying, an Arlingtonian could go to another jurisdiction, like, they should be able to get.
All the presentations I've heard.
Yeah, so it's like it's like almost like this is where the regionalism gets important. We're saying like, oh, this county is gonna cut all their services. It's like, wait, what? And we're rating like that's
Every county.
yeah. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the budgets this year, and some counties are not cutting their budget, or not raising tax, property, and it's like some did before. So it's like there's a lot of counties that look to see what other counties have done and before decide. So it's like it's a game of like mouse of like how, because every jurisdiction is like, how much can we minimize raising our the property tax rate? And then it comes down to kind of just keeping control of services. So it gets, ideally we have this strategy, and have these services really placed where it's needed throughout our Northern Virginia and obviously greater DC region. But yeah, it's hard when you're asking Arlington to have their taxes raised, fund these services, which could be helpful. And then, across the border, they're like, no, we're keeping ours flat. Grants and vouchers are flat. So it's tough to ask that.
All I know is that it's a trickle down effect, especially when we're dealing with cap units and want to make sure that everyone is eligible or able to get their stuff. So all areas of the budget trickles down and affects. So that's the reason why I personally was interested in knowing about the different stuff. And I can look it up as far as like what they're doing, as far as like the rules and regulations of this, that, and the other. But I do know it does affect the cap, which is part of the Housing Commission concern when we, talk to developers and stuff of that nature. So that's why I brought it up.
That's taking a look at the points here that kind of raise. Really, I want to go to both points made about these no-cost housing affordability solutions as well as the fair housing enforcement stuff. So if we're looking at first the no-cost housing stuff, we've got one thing in particular, which is changing definition of family in the zoning ordinance to include more unrelated individuals per household as a definition, right? So
I totally agree on that, and I'm saying that for the elderly. And you saw the article in today's paper. I believe in the Golden Girl model, which is basically, elderly that can't afford to live. They, three unrelated people in a neighborhood, they can provide childcare service to the people in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And I'm talking about the well elderly, the people that would live independently of Culpeper and stuff like that. And I think this would help that. And we need to do something because the elderly numbers are just going up and up and up.
One thing I think we should push for and recommend county boards, it's no cost. It's something we've raised before, but they haven't acted on.
Joe's going.
I get it out better.
So Brian, I mean, generally, I think, well, I don't want to speak for others, but I'm guessing others feel the way I feel, in that, you know, when you're bleeding, the first thing you do is stop the bleeding. Right now, the county's budget will be bleeding this year, and therefore the first priority is staunching some of that bleeding. And I think that means addressing homelessness and the housing rate. So and AHAB. So if I have my druthers, I'd say I'd prefer to push for flat or slight increases in those three categories. They have housing grants and homelessness services, homeless prevention services. And I like what Kellen laid out with his draft recommendations. I like the no cost affordability solutions. And I have no objections to the order in which he enumerated them. So those are my 2 cents.
Yeah. We're looking at that way. So housing grants, prioritizing a cost solution for housing reform, which is, that's one thing that cost wise is going to be a bit of a problem. We need to hire staff to take care of that. Obviously.
For which one? Sorry.
Fair housing enforcement.
Is that right?
I saw it in that one pager.
Yeah.
There's a really nice one pager.
Okay. Okay.
And they do have money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have to, invest in outreach and education. That hopefully is included in the role. I'll go with that.
I just want to say I agree with Zach. Helen's not here, so I don't know what you would make of this, but the program should remain open to all eligible residents. I mean, that's a way of saying, like, not ending the transition, the end of the housing grant recommendation.
Oh, I see.
If that's like his way of saying not ending the.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that.
Piece.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
Well,
that's
maybe
what
we
he's
just
referring to.
recommend that.
I had a conversation with him a few days ago, and I think that's what he is referring to.
Yeah.
To speak against what Alice was saying, like we are making this cut, right? And to your point, yes, like we have to be mindful to staunch the bleeding, but the question is, what's the balance, right? Harm versus good here.
Finish your thought.
No, I'm
And just to reiterate what I was saying as far as like the CAF units, because the trickle down effect is now, should we require or request developers to provide more CAF units so we can bring more affordable housing to help the homeless individuals get into housing quicker, since we are expanding it to the residents who need it are required to be an Arlington resident. So it starts to trickle down. Like now, as the housing commission, when we hear a developer come on, we go, well, how many CAF units are you gonna provide? And can we request that they get it increased?
right, because of these limitations we have.
That's the ordinance.
Yeah,
That's the ordinance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
No.
Well, it's the ordinance and the bonus density.
Yeah.
And most of our
That
castle
isn't
bonus.
happening with this.
Right.
It also doesn't.
Yeah, those only happen 5 years when they finish, so.
That's
Yeah.
exactly. That's a longer term solution to the problem, but I acknowledge the point. I think the issue is, of course, we're in the crisis now, right? And so we can't wait for something that's gonna come down 4 or 5 years in the future that will actually be in it. That's is where we are. So but acknowledging Kellen's point here that ending our expansion of housing grants to cover categories of youth aging out, foster care is going to, as Jason pointed out, going to be one, like, not an effective use of resources, right? It's going to be more expensive in the future than it is right now to pay but it's also a betrayal of the values that the county sets out. So I think that's one area where we do really need to call it out. You'll recognize that there are financial constraints. It seems to be dumber to spend more money in the future in future preventative services to address a higher homeless population than to just pay now and save yourself the trouble and save those individuals the misfortune.
Can I ask Alice a question? You said give the program a chance, so has it not really, like, is it kind of been on paper but not really funded for the aging out of foster care?
I misunderstood that. I thought that because it's been one that we've been trying to get in for years.
Okay.
So now I need to look and see, sounds like from Helen's documents that maybe it was brought in last year and now it's going back out.
Okay.
Or if that's I'm just not clear on it now, so
Got
I
it.
have to.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know the
No, that's okay. I was just curious, like if it was only on paper and not funded.
Right, like I know it's been something we've tried to get in the last 2 years, but now I can't remember.
Okay.
If it did get in, it was very brief to be then now out. So
Right. Yeah, I like the idea of calling that out, and I think we should, like, I'm happy to look into it, but Jason, if you already know of like a paper we could cite or something to kind of illustrate, yes, this is ultimately gonna cost the county more money. Like, that might be something that resonates with them. I mean, everyone knows that prevention saves money, but maybe if we can like cite it, I don't know. Probably not, but it's worth a shot. It might pull more than the heartstrings argument at this point because, like Margaret and Karen has said, like, it's just a disaster situation.
Before we end our conversation, acknowledge Margaret. She's online now, and it's unfortunate to say.
Might be offline. She sent Ryan and I a message that I will forward to everyone.
Is the goal to look at notes and beef those up and they will be in a letter or something like that? If that's so, I have 2 recommendations. On number 2, with changing the family definition, et cetera, knowing how the perception of that is in our communities here, I would add as an example, the elderly. All right, and that may give some resonance because that would help with the optics. The other thing, the fair housing thing, I'll preface that with the documented pullout at the federal level. This is even more important.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So and that's just a known fact.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Like I was saying, Kellen voted to make this an action item to take forward for next month. So we are going to aggregate these comments.
Okay.
Put them in, and I think that's useful in helping make the case, give concrete examples. This is what we're talking about when we say these things.
Brian, just a quick note. I think it's just in general, the challenge with these, and I think this is, you really need to have a great case to the public, is because these are, I would say, diffuse benefits. If you cut the vouchers, a person, let's say, that's not as felt as acutely as saying, oh, my gymnastic, they propose, oh, my gymnastics, not my kid's gymnastics, I got to pay $1,000 now or whatever, because that got cut, or the library got consolidated. So it's versus saying like, oh, we're just, a lot of, and
it's an amorphous thing.
Yeah, it's just amorphous. Oh, there's just more home, or and so it's like it's you really got to make a strong case. Like, this is our societal, like, this is our benefit, versus someone saying like,
these are people's life stipend.
Yeah. So, but that's I think the big challenge to convince someone, because then if they say, okay, let's fund everything, then you're raising the taxes, then that's acutely felt. Everyone sees their statement. Oh my gosh! So it becomes that. This is the big tension that is so strong. It's very difficult.
Yeah. The labor.
Infographic, which I think.
I've sent.
You sent it out. I want to see it in a nice.
On the budget.
On the proposed 2027 budget. Yeah. It really kind of explains more.
want to belabor this anymore. We need to, so let's go to the last point here that Kellen has for creative. So account for is prioritizing adding additional fund, to keep units, stable at the 60%, 8% AMIO, but Kellen's proposing that we adjust this also for 30% AMI. If we afford this level. I know a lot of great research has been done by the Arlington Community Foundation on this point. I think this is something that we should push for if we're going to do something where we may need to reallocate funds. And I'd be more comfortable saying that you're going to shift the bell curve funding down from 80 towards 30, right? So it means, unfortunately, people at that higher extreme that may not by any stretch of the words be like living the life of luxury will be impacted, but we are capturing people on the lower end of the extreme that are in desperate need, right? So I think if we're going to have a conversation about prioritizing, that's what we should be doing, right? You know, move to where the most need is. But to Jason's point earlier, it is a diffuse good that a lot of people don't initially see, right? Because they won't encounter that in their day-to-day lives. So it's something we're going to have to make a powerful point on to enforce its necessity. But that's just an information point. So happy to see any more questions. Yes.
If we have time on this, I would like to add language in here that the county should strive to look at other creative ways. And what I'm thinking about is, in my neighborhood, there was a development where someone's proposing transfer development units. And that's somewhat controversial, whatever, but that's a creative way that in this project, they're not in Roslyn, which they're already saturated, there's not going to be any affordable. They're going to use the money, the 123 units in equity, and give it to another nonprofit to use that somewhere else in the county. So that's kind of one example. I can maybe wordsmith this for you, but I think something like that in these dire times of budget, and the reason why we're in this budget situation, and our commercial real estate is like this, and us residential people are going to be paying higher taxes. That's why we're in this situation. It isn't because what's going on across the river totally. But that's why we're in this situation, is the commercial real estate is no longer because of COVID, remote work, et cetera. So that's why we're here. And that's why our real estate taxes are going to be increased at a minimum of 4.8%.
Yeah, so I only have one fast development update. That's all right. So the one development update tonight is that as of February 18th, so a few weeks ago, Arlington County has released a notice of funding availability for $11 million in county loan funds for the development and preservation of affordable housing. And so that period is open now. It is open until March 20th at 5 p.m. And I will send you all an email tomorrow with more information, a link straight to the NOVA page so that you can look around for those interested and go through those materials. But that is the only development update for tonight. And we have all of our meetings covered, thanks to Joe and Karen. So, and Jason. So we have everything covered meeting wise. That is it for development. Yes.
They have like orientation or information session about ANOFA. Do you know if staff providing something for applicants?
Yeah, so in the past, there was a NOFA kind of help session. It was mostly kind of targeted at developers instead of more so the public. And so that there won't be that meeting this time around. It is more so if developers have any issues, questions, we provided the contact for staff to come to us. But we haven't, received too many questions related to it yet. So we think everything is going smoothly and hope to have some applications.
We'll end off with subcommittee liaison reports. So first, CISAC report.
So that is Margaret.
She sent a note.
Yes, so I forwarded Margaret's farewell note, but there is no CISAC note today.
When I was
Sad.
I worked with her.
And C2E2 is Katie, I believe, so that is another, that is.
Oh yes, we are going to.
Just sad.
So.
And I don't believe the other two have met yet.
Okay.
Yeah, the climate, it's gonna start soon. The timeline is full. The full timeline is adoption by the board winter 2028, final climate action plan. Still got time for that, but it's gonna take a while to go through.
And I did go to the virtually, I was on the historic advisory commission or whatever, and it's a very interesting bunch of people. You read the article, they're going to tax some of these neighborhoods for historic preservation, primarily, I believe, Woodmont. It's they are very anti-development. And it's interesting that I found they were more interested in tree canopy than historic buildings. But a lot of the discussion was on tree canopy. But I will, as appropriate, whenever there's anything of housing related, I will be there in person. That's my report.
With that, wraps it up. We'll exhort you all, if you are interested in what CISAC or C2E2 do. We have two conspicuous holes there, so please don't be shy and volunteering to be represented in those commissions. But that's, I'll close out the meeting. So thank you all so much for spending your time here in 2 hours on a Thursday, and we'll adjourn this meeting.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, do you know?